this first session will be devoted to a little bit talking about what we are going to deal with during this semester, or in other words, the course description. And at the same time, we are going to see the difference between the three genres with a focus rather on the second passage, because this is a fiction class, so we are going to focus more on the second passage. Okay? Now, let me ask you first. Now, anybody can volunteer, any one of you can volunteer and present to the others, to everyone, these three texts. In other words, each text, to which genre it belongs, to which literary type it belongs. Nasreddin, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
The text number one, it's for the genre of poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Text
Carry on,
number two, no, text number two, it's for fiction, and text number three, it's for drama. I guess.
Okay, may I? Yeah, carry on.
That's it. I think that's it.
Okay,
The genre,
it's better to
right?
use the word belongs to, Nasreddin. Now, the text number one
Okay,
belongs to the
okay.
genre of poetry. Text
The text number
number
one
one,
belongs
sorry.
to the genre of poetry. Text number
Uh-huh.
two belongs to the genre of fiction, and text number three belongs to the genre of drama.
Okay, good. Now, so that you are not confused, let's make these words or these terms clear in your minds. The genre, the type of literature is called poetry or fiction or a drama. Now, the literary work that we are dealing with, we are readers, we are reading a literary work. Now, in text number one, we read what? The work is called what? A poem. صحيح نرجس. Donc we read a poem. Be careful. Now it sounds obvious, but still some students make mistakes. Huh? Mishket,
Yes.
you're saying what?
The first one is poetry, the second one is fiction, and the third one is play, drama.
Yeah, that's the genre, Mishket. That's the genre.
Yeah.
Now the work that we read, the work that we are reading. Yeah, the first one
is a poem. The second
a
one is
poem.
text. The second one is like a novel or a novella, I don't know. And the third one is a play.
Good girl. So we have poem, a novel, and a play. Be careful to these terms. Huh? A poem, a novel, and a play. Now, the second one is a novel. It's not a novella, Mishket, it's a novel.
Okay.
Now, a novella and a novel, the difference is that a novella is shorter. A novella is shorter than a novel. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, a short story, I guess you know it. A short story, as its name suggests, it's a little bit short. It's not a novel.
Shorter than the novel. It's
Much shorter. Narges, yes, much shorter than a novel. That's a short story. Now, a short story, a novel, and a novella, these are subgenres or subtypes. كلهم they belong to the genre of fiction. Okay? Now, a poem, هذيك, as you said, belongs to the genre of poetry. So, poetry, a poem. Be careful. A play is the work that we read and that you are going to study in the drama class. And a play belongs to the genre of drama. Be careful. Now, the writers, the artists who are creating these works, in text number one, what do we call him or her?
A poet.
A poet. Be careful. Let me type it. I said that sounds obvious or evident, but some students make mistakes. These terms are a little bit confusing for them. So be careful. A poem, a poet. Don't use them interchangeably, yeah? Then, second number two. Text number two, sorry. The writer is called?
A novelist.
A novelist. We can say a novelist, a writer, an author, but a novelist is fine. Okay? Text number three with the play.
Playwright.
Playwright. Nede, you said?
Dramatist.
Dramatist or a playwright. Okay, these are the artists or the writers. Now, all of the three texts belongs to what we call literature. These are literary works. Now, may I ask you a question here? What marks the language used in literature? What characterizes the language used in literature? Language.
Embellished language.
Who said that?
مشكات. Yes.
Mishket, you said language of literature is embellished. Let me write it for your friends. Embellished. What do you mean by embellished? Language is embellished. Another word. Yes, Malek, what does it mean? Another synonym for embellished.
Sophisticated.
Not exactly. Embellished means what?
Full of
unclear.
Manar, you said decorated. Nasreddin, you are going to say something.
Unclear.
Clear and formal. Malek, formal. Clear, not really.
Unclear. Not clear.
Unclear. Not exactly. It may be clear. I got your point, Nasreddin, but this is not the exact term. When you say unclear, as if it is nonsensical. It's not really nonsensical.
It's full of vocabulary and description and stuff like that.
Yes, that may be a little bit, one of you said sophisticated or hard to understand. Nasreddin, you said a moment ago, Electra is a little bit hard to understand. Akawale, am I right?
Yes.
Nasreddin, you said that.
Yes.
So sometimes language of literature is a little bit hard to understand, but at the same time, it's embellished. Yes. I stopped you. Okay, so it is embellished, it is decorated, it is beautiful. Language of literature is beautiful. You got my point here? It's beautiful, not like the language we use in everyday on a everyday language. You got my point? Now, what makes it so beautiful and so embellished? What makes it like this, embellished or beautiful? You got my question? What makes language embellished or decorated or beautiful?
Certain rules.
Nasreddin, repeat.
Certain rules.
Rules. What do you mean by rules? You mean characteristics? Certain characteristics?
For example, in poetry, we have certain rules that makes the poem very beautiful. The images, something like that.
Okay, let me stress this word. You said images. Images. What do you mean by images?
Images, the description, personification.
The analogy.
Every text, poem, or I don't know, novel, or it's the sophisticated by its rules, something like that.
The figurative language. It's figurative.
You said figurative language.
Yes.
Mishket, you said?
The language used, I mean the vocabulary.
You mean the vocabulary makes it embellished. Let me go back to your friend's first idea, which is images. Now, if we go back to the poem, for example, Alish, we don't talk theoretically. Can we just move to the poem together and just follow a little bit? The first one, okay? Let me guide you, for instance, to stanza number 2. The word stanza, you know what I mean? Stanza, you will see this more in your poetry class.
Yes.
Let me type it for you. Stanza, we mean what by stanza?
The second paragraph.
A group of
Like,
no.
Kind of. It's not really a paragraph, but the second block of lines, let's say, yeah?
Yeah.
The second part, the second group of lines. In a poem, we say line, we have verse, or we have lines. Okay? So if we go to the second group of lines, and let me guide you to something here, for example, line number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, line number 6, or line number 5. We start from 5. We die as your hours do, and dry away like the summer's rain, dry away like the summer's rain, or as the pearls of morning's dew. هنا the poet is describing or is actually talking to what? Look at the title. He's describing what?
Daffodils.
Yeah, daffodils. Guys, daffodils is a type of flower. A beautiful
flower.
yellow flower. Right? He's describing the daffodils. وشنو قال لهم؟ قال لهم we die, everybody, the daffodils and we, as your hours do, and dry away, meaning the daffodils will dry away like the summer's rain.
This is
Sorry?
he's comparing the short life of human with the life of daffodils.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe it's like the season of daffodils is out, so they're dying, and he's describing it.
Can you repeat? Sorry, I didn't get it. Maybe what?
The season of daffodils is gone, so he's describing the scene when they are dying.
Exactly. That's what is the poem about. Now the daffodils are dying of, and he's describing the scene, and he's of course communicating many messages in the poem, which we are going to see in a moment. Now the line which I read, like the summers. Let me go back to it. I forgot it. Like the like the summer's rain. You will dry away like the summer's rain. What do we call it?
Comparison.
Simile. Analogy. It's analogy.
It is an analogy, but it has a name. Yes. Mariam, you said metaphor. It's not a metaphor. We call it like
no.
Anybody know?
A simile.
Comparison.
No, a simile. The exact word I wrote it for you is a simile. All right. It is true. You said analogy. There is an analogy or a comparison between two things, which we call a simile. All right. It's not exactly a metaphor. In a metaphor, we also compare, but a metaphor we don't have like. We don't have the word like or as. تنشوفوها in text number 3. It's full of metaphors. My point here, listen guys, my point here is that a simile is actually a figure of speech. Let me write a figure. Where is it? A figure of speech. All right, a simile, a metaphor. A moment ago you said personification. All of these are figures of speech in literature. All right, are you following?
Yes.
Donc language of literature is full of figures of speech. It is embellished, justement, it is embellished, decorated by those figures of speech, among other things, of course. But figures of speech, they are beautiful. They make it beautiful. Now, the point here, Nargis, say it again.
Creative.
Yeah, of course, the artist should be creative. Should have a lot of, talent so that he can create those, figures of speech. Now, the point here is that those figures of speech, their role, apart from making the language, beautiful, etc., they appeal, we are readers, they appeal to our imagination, they appeal to our senses. They create images. There is a link. Those figures of speech create images in our minds. For example, when I read about the lines, which I was reading a moment ago, I automatically think of the spring, think of the dew, think of those daffodils. You see my point here? As if there are pictures. Let me type it for you. There are pictures in our minds. Those figures of speech create images or pictures in our minds. You see my point?
Yes.
When you read the description in the poem, you start to imagine things. You start to have images in your minds. All right? Any comment so far?
They speak to our senses.
Yeah, they appeal to our senses. They speak to our senses. For example, when you imagine spring. Yes, Nargis.
Can you say that the idea is given intensity by the use of the simile?
Given intensity, you mean make the, what do you mean by given intensity? Make the message strong?
The intensity of emotion. It is the idea is powerful.
Absolutely.
Is
Absolutely. Now, a poet usually shares his emotions with other readers, shares his thoughts,
yes,
his emotions. Okay. So of course there are thoughts and there are emotions conveyed. Now, is he really happy with what is the poet really happy with what is happening to the daffodils?
No, he's not.
no.
He's not. But at the same time, he invites, as if he invites us, or he invites the readers to do what? If you read, if you want the message of the poet Robert Herrick, still stanza 2. We have short time to stay, as you. We have as short as a spring, as quick a growth to meet decay, as you or anything. We, you mean every one of us, huh? He means every one of us,
Yeah.
human beings, like those daffodils.
He's
What is he?
highlighting the importance of time.
Sorry?
Highlighting the importance of time.
صحيح. He's highlighting the importance of benefiting
Time.
from our time.
Yes.
Benefiting
exactly.
from our, or from our what? What do we
Time.
mean by time?
Lifetime.
Life, صحيح. Huh? Life
Living
is
the
short.
moment.
Yeah, we should seize the moment, seize, profit from our life as much as possible, because it's like spring. It's short,
It goes away.
like the daffodils. They bloom, they're fine, and then they die off. Okay, you
Yes.
see,
Yes.
that's the message, the message conveyed. In other words, in literature, usually poets or artists want to convey what?
What?
In a poem or in literature in general, the final goal of the
Message.
artist, yeah, to convey a message, to share his thoughts, his emotions with the readers.
Yes.
Nade,
Okay.
you say
Yeah, I
something,
get it.
Nade?
No.
Okay, so literature is at the same time beautiful, and we enjoy reading it. The aspect of pleasure in literature, pleasure in reading a poem, but at the same time we can learn things. Readers can learn things. There are messages conveyed in a work. Are you familiar with any message, Haka, you read about recently in a novel or in a short story? Are you familiar with any idea which is stressed by another artist, another writer? In any work
Abu,
that you have
Abu
read
Nawais,
recently?
madam.
Yes, like what? Which ideas you
For
want?
example, Abu Nawais explains, adds the
The destiny
the
that we can.
vodka, the drinking in his poems.
Drinking
Okay,
of
but
alcohol.
في الظاهر مدام معناه يمدح في الخمرة وكل شيء. أما
So
he
praises,
explain
that's the literature.
inside
Praises.
the poem, he explains how he want to forget about time because
Okay,
lifetime is short. Life is
okay,
short, and we have to. And he wants to forget about it, so he runs
okay.
to the drinks to drink
Okay,
it.
yeah, that's an idea that he wants to convey. Can be.
Yeah.
Mishkate, you are going to say something? You were going.
I forgot my idea. I'm sorry.
What about the others? Nisreen, Narges, Nede, Manar, Mariam, Melek, Mu'taz. What about the others? Any ideas in literature that
Miss,
you read about recently?
there is a play for سعد الله ونوس. It's called الفيل يا ملك الزمان, and he رأس المملوك جابر. He talks about how we cannot escape from our destiny even if we are smart and all.
And this is exactly what we are going to see in Greek tragedies. That's the message conveyed in Greek tragedies as well. Nobody can escape their destiny. Absolutely. So you got the idea of messages conveyed in literature. So in literature, we do have both pleasure and, messages, probably a lesson to be learned, etc. Now, Go back to text 1. خلينا نكملوا في text 1 and then we are going to since we started with it, then we are going to move to the following texts. Now, poetry. We were saying that it is divided into stanzas. Any other characteristic that marks the genre of poetry, and any other trait or characteristic? Do you notice
The
anything else?
rhyme.
Rhyme. Who said? Nargis? You said rhyme?
Yes. Yes. The words have similar sounds and sounds.
Like what? Give me an example. Like what?
Like
Soon, noon.
soon and noon and song,
Yes.
song and along.
Day. Yes, stay day as well. Stay day. Song along.
Yes.
Okay. Decay, dry. Sorry?
Song along.
Yes. Now,
Dry, decay.
yes. So it's the final, the last sound, which is repeated and which we call rhyme. Okay. Now, what's the effect of rhyme? Using rhymes in poetry? What is the effect of it?
Make it like sound like a melody and make it more efficient to the receiver.
Like a song.
Good. Yes, like a
It
song.
is it is satisfying to the ear and can make different ideas closely related.
Excellent, satisfying or pleasing. It's pleasant. It creates a pleasant and a rhythmic rhythm. The idea of rhythm, a rhythmic, sound. And because poetry, most of poetry is sung. Actually, they are meant to be songs. So this is what marks the
Yeah.
genre of poetry. Anything else you can notice in a poem? Anything else?
The lines are from a different length. They have a different length.
Yes, actually, it depends on the meter used. Meter used. هذه تشوفوا in your poetry classes. Some poetry is metrical. Metrical معناه you can divide each line into syllables.
Yeah.
And some other poetry is non-metrical. Not all poetry is metrical. Free verse. Free verse. Let me type it. Free verse, for instance, it's a free. It's not. It doesn't follow really. It doesn't really follow a meter or some rules. Okay, so it depends on the poem you are reading. Now, can we move to the second? Yes. Sorry.
We have also the repetition of different words, like in line 5, stay, stay.
Repetition of words.
Yes.
Yes. Of course, when a word is repeated, it has an aim. It has a goal. It has a role in that, which is
yes,
what?
to insist.
To insist.
Excellent. To stress an idea. He's addressing the daffodils and saying
highlighting.
Highlighting an idea. All right. So repetition, of course, can mark the genre of poetry. Not only poetry. We can find repetition in all genres actually. Okay. Anything else? Can we move to text 2 and text 3 because I want to focus on that. Of course, in your poetry class, you will deal more with poems and with all those traits, generic traits or characteristics. Now, text 2 and text 3. Anybody can introduce text 2, for example, the title of the novel, who is the writer. Anybody can comment on text 2. It's taken from what? Yes? Okay. So the title of the novel is The Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain. The novelist is Mark Twain, and it's taken from chapter 1. It's actually the opening scene. It means the very, very beginning of the novel. All right?
Yes.
Are you following?
Yes.
Okay, you're following? So, what about text 3? What about
it's
text
an extract from Macbeth, spoken by Macbeth, William Shakespeare.
Yes, absolutely. So text 3 is an extract from a play entitled Macbeth By
Written by
William Shakespeare. Yes,
Shakespeare.
written by William
Act
Shakespeare.
5, Scene 5, something like that.
Okay. Now, what do you notice in terms of differences between fiction, drama? Pretty easy. Just let's be aware of this. Huh? Fiction, drama. Text 2, text 3.
The
Key
way
characteristics.
the way it looks, it's written. The way it's written.
You mean the form or the structure?
Yes,
The
the
form.
form. Yes.
Huh? Yes. Carry on.
Yes. Yes, that's it, Miss. The form
A novel.
of the text. It's different
Yeah.
from the
A
other.
novel is. Look at chapter 1. Chapter 1. A novel is divided into. When you take a novel and you
Where?
want to read it, you will find chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. هكا ولا؟
Yes.
Yes.
Donc
Chapters.
it's divided. Yeah, it's divided into chapters. A novel is
Yes.
divided into chapters. A
And the play,
play,
it's divided to scenes. Scenes
acts and
and
scenes. Yeah, acts and scenes. All right.
acts
A play
and
is
scenes.
divided, yes, into acts and scenes. Any other characteristics? Any other difference?
the grammar used.
You mean the language used?
Yes.
No, I mean, like for example, in the play, we have like for example, the first line is not a full sentence, but in the other one is like a full sentence. I don't know.
Okay, that's a good point. Now, a moment ago, we said a poem is written in what? Is divided into what? Sorry, to
Verses.
go back to poetry. A poem, we said,
Stanzas.
yeah,
In verses.
a verse. صح,
No,
verse.
no, sorry. A verse.
Now, a novel is actually written in. Is it written in verse? What
In
do we call
prose.
No.
the fiction? Prose.
In
Yes. Prose. Verse one, a prose. No, fiction is written in prose. In other words, in paragraphs, you know, it's not in sentences and paragraphs. It's not really lines, like in poetry. Now, what about text 3, drama? Drama, the genre of drama or plays are written in prose or in verse?
Both.
Both, yes. Drama can be both. Now here, for example, we have the text that we have here. Is it a verse or prose?
Verse.
Verse. It's like a poem. When we say verse, it's like a poem. Now,
Yes.
in plays, we can have both. We do have both. We have prose and we do have verse. It depends. In Shakespeare, for example, tragic heroes speak in verse, while common people speak in a prose. Greek tragedies are written in verse. Listen, Greek tragedies, well, these are classical tragedies, very classical tragedies. They're like poems. They are written in verse, not in prose. Is that clear so far?
Yes.
Can you
Yeah.
please?
Sorry?
Can you repeat this point, please?
So we said that fiction, or the genre of fiction, usually novels and novellas and short stories, are written in prose. Now, poetry is written in verse.
Yes.
Now, plays, you can find both. You can find verse and you can find prose. Tragedies, Greek tragedies like the one we are going to deal with, Electra, are originally written in verse. They are like poems. Okay, they are plays, but they are written like poems. Now we go back to the document. Any other difference between text 2 and text 3?
The punctuation.
Not really. Punctuation is present everywhere. No, not really. Punctuation.
I mean, in the novel. Yes. I'm sorry.
Miss,
Probably it wants
Miss.
Yeah, go ahead.
Normally, in fiction, the author is speaking, is telling a story, a tale or a story, something like that.
Yeah, even in a play, we have a story. Yeah, one of you wrote a plot a moment ago. Dima, we have a story, events arranged in a plot, in both a fiction or in a novel or in a play. We do have plots, events. Now, a play is usually, sorry,
Maybe the
speaking.
difference, maybe we find the difference between real and imaginary facts. Events,
In both, actually, we can find, let me type these words, reality and imagination or fiction. Imagination. Fiction, when I say fiction, مش the genre. Fiction معناها creating a story. Donc in
Mrs.
both a play and a novel, we can find both reality and we can find imagination. Nargis?
In fiction, the writer usually presents his feelings, but in a play, he can make the characters speak, so they can present the feelings, not himself. He can
I
make
got
them speak.
a good girl. In a play, usually characters engaged in a dialogue. Let me type it for you. Dialogue. In plays, we do have dialogue. Characters are performing roles and they are speaking to each other. So the readers know about all these events from whom? From the characters who are interacting.
Miss, even in novel we have a dialogue.
We can find, yes, good girl, we can find dialogue in novels, but it's not based on dialogues. A play is based on dialogue or monologue. In text 3, we do have a monologue, not a dialogue. Let me type it, monologue.
Yes, and the interactions between the characters. The first
Yes, in a
one
play, we
speaks,
have an
then the other.
interaction. The interaction, we can read about it or we can know about it in dialogue or in monologue. Now, in novels, we can find dialogue, but it's not based on dialogue. It's rather based on what? Let's have a look at text 2. Let's focus on text.
on prose.
Yes,
narration.
I mean, who is telling us the events? Who
The
is
author.
saying, paragraph
The
1, I
writer,
will set down a tale. I will set down a tale as it was told to
the
me by one
novelist.
who had. Not necessarily. Not
No.
necessarily. The
The
novelist, he is the god, if you want. Sorry for the word of the work. He's the creator of the work. But the one who is telling us the story, we call him what we
narrator.
call
The author.
narrator. No. The author is the writer. Now, narrator,
Is the one who tells the story.
Yes.
the one, I don't know, the woman, the man, the animal, whatever. The person who is telling us the story, who's telling the story to the readers. Like in here, text 2, the one who is saying, I will set down a tale as it was told to me. So this is the narrator. All right, the narrator telling the reader, describing to the reader and narrating at the same time. Are you following?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have the story from the mouths of the character, from the narrator. Of course, we do
Miss,
sometimes have dialogue.
Miss, what we call when one of the character is the narrator? Is there a specific name for it? I think.
It can be. You mean one character, maybe the narrator?
Yes. Is there a specific name for it? I think there is.
This is we are going to see in the second semester. Narrators have types. Not all narrators are the same. Okay? From a first person narrator, second person narrator, third person narrator, that would be the second semester program. Okay?
Okay.
Are you following? So, let's agree on that. We do have a narrator telling us or telling the readers events. Now, can we focus more on text 2 and see what else rather marks fiction? Can you notice anything in text 2?
Mrs. The plot, the events are in order. He said, I will sit down. He said,
What do you mean by in order? The events are in order. You mean they are
Uh,
precise? He gave us
Uh,
precise
I
details.
mean, yes,
Yeah,
there is
carry
an
on.
order of the events in the novel.
Okay, so he starts from, you mean a chronological order. He starts from the beginning and he moves on.
Yes,
It depends because the story is talking about those two babies. I wonder if you read it. I gave you
yes,
some
yes.
time.
I was confused. Uh, yes, there is an idea I wanted to say, but I was confused.
Which one?
I
Let me
wanted to
comment.
say,
You wanted to say
I
what?
wanted to say the setting. There is the
We are
time
we are going
and
to
the
setting
place.
in just a moment, just a moment. So the idea of your friend is that in certain stories, we do have events going in their normal order. Like in here, we have two babies are born, and the story is going to follow what happens to those two babies later on in the novel. Sometimes some stories do not necessarily follow the normal order, the chronological order. You can start with the ending. Have you ever seen a film that starts with the ending, for example?
yes.
Yes.
Donc,
Yes,
it's not necessarily the case. Now, your friend as well said setting, the word setting,
Setting.
which is setting,
The,
which
the
is
time and
the
place.
Time
time
and
and
place.
yes,
character.
time, not characters. Setting is time and place. You know that this is a fictional world. A novel is a fictional world, an imaginary world. And this world has a place, has a particular place and a particular time. Characters, these are the people who dwell in this world, who live in this world. You got my point?
Yes,
So here we have a particular place and a particular time, and they are both mentioned in text two.
London.
Now, London, very good. In the ancient city of London, do we have a date, a historical date?
Not really, but we can tell by the character, the quarter of 16th century.
The second
Oh,
quarter.
really? It's not really. We do have a date. We do have a century, yeah?
Uh,
It's the 16th century,
yeah.
guys. It's the 16th century in London. Are you following?
Yes.
Yes,
So that's the historical date. We do have a historical date or historical detail. 16th century. 16e siècle. Any other detail about setting? Any other detail about either time or place?
It was in autumn, the season.
Season. Good girl. We do have an idea about the season. Autumn. What else? Any other details about either time or place? Nisreen.
The place, I think it is in the palace because it is a prince. So,
Yes, we do. We have the palace, but we do also have the streets in London.
yes.
What happens to those streets after the baby number one is born? We do have two babies,
Yes.
like the title, the prince and the pauper. We have the prince. What's his name?
Theodore. Theodore.
Tudor, yes. Baby number one, Edward Tudor, and we have baby number two, the pauper, or what's the meaning of the pauper?
The poor.
Very poor. We do have two babies. One belongs to the royalty, and one very, very poor baby.
Or
But the story here is that they are physically identical. They look the same. The babies, they're not
They're
brothers.
twins.
No,
Twins.
they're not twins, but they look the same. They're physically identical. And what happens later on in the story is that when they grow up, their identities will be exchanged. The prince will
change
be
up.
in the shoes of the
Take
pauper,
place of the- Yes.
yeah, and vice versa. You see the
Yes.
point? The whole novel will be about this. Sorry, Mu'taz?
Miss, about the place, it's called Wales.
Mishkate, say it again.
The place of it's called Wales because we have Prince of Wales.
Wales, huh?
Wales.
Wales. Wales, you know, Britain, you know, Great Britain, huh? Wales, Scotland, England. So هو Edward is the Prince of Wales. Actually, King وقتها Henry VIII, I think, yes, Henry VIII, huh? The King of England at the time. So these are historical details, guys. These are historical details. Man, the setting is credible, is for real. However, the plot or the events, are they real? Is this history? Are they
It
real?
can't be real.
No.
Imagination.
No.
Not really. Not really.
Some sort of imagination.
Yeah, it's based on imagination. Actually, the first paragraph, look at the first paragraph by the narrator himself. He confesses that he's not sure of the story. شنو يقول? It was told to me, line 1, it was told to me by one who had it of his father, which latter had it of his father. This last, having in like manner had it of his father, and so on. Back and still, 300 years and more, the fathers transmitting it to the sons and so preserving it. It may be history, it may be only a legend. You see the point here?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's not 100% history. يعني
It could be a legend, it could be true.
Actually, legends, I'm not sure they're true. Probably one detail or one character is
Yes, yes.
for real, but the rest is not really for real. So a lot of imagination. The point is that a fictional world is full of imagination despite having some realistic details. And then we do have some historical or realistic details, like the place, which is
The
London.
date.
The date, we do have, as we said, 16th century, yeah, 16e siècle.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Miss. When he said it may have happened, it may not have happened. We see he's
Voilà.
not sure.
So he's not sure. It means that's fiction. He's drawing our attention to the fact that this is fiction. It's not history, right? This is not a work of history. This is a fictional work.
Yes, we have also the word tale, which makes it more fictional.
The word what? Sorry.
Tale, a tale.
Yeah, a tale. It's a story. A tale. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, most of the time, author mention it as like a story fiction. It is fiction, not more like a facts. That's what I mean.
Yes, yes. Because fairy is fiction. You mean to be more precise? To be more precise, we say fairy. These types of tales, in which we do have a lot of imagination, in which we have fairies and elves, etc. I'm not sure. I don't agree 100% with what you said. Anyway, now let's focus on the fact that here we do have, as we said, two babies, Edward Tudor, Prince of Wales, and we have Tom Canty. اللي هو have a look at the very end of the text. آخر partie, there was no talk about the other baby, Tom Canty, lapped in his poor rags, except among the family of paupers, whom he had just come to trouble with his presence. You see the difference here between baby number 1 and baby number 2? Before
Yes.
going to the message conveyed,
Yes.
before going to the message conveyed. Now, actually, this particular setting, and we have a long description about what happens in the street. People are, the birth of this prince. Which reaction does it have on people in the streets?
Joy, happiness.
Yeah, a lot of joy. What are they doing in the streets? What are they doing?
They kissed each other and cried.
Yes. They're even celebrating, guys. They're celebrating. Look at paragraph.
danced.
Look at Maneha. Yeah, look at splendid pageants marching along. So we have like an, like an exhibition, people marching. We do have fire, burning fire to show they're, very happy. We do have gay banners waving from every balcony. Ah, you see those details?
Yes.
Everybody
Ah,
speaking
so,
holiday.
sorry, yeah, the holiday. You said the holiday?
Yes.
Yes. So here, I just want to draw your attention to another word, which we are going to focus next session. Don't worry. Now, a particular place, a particular setting, with the details it has, it creates a kind of atmosphere, a general atmosphere. Like in here, the place creates an atmosphere of joy, an atmosphere of celebration, an atmosphere of happiness. And what I mean by the word atmosphere is the general impression we as readers get. You got my point? The general
Yes.
feelings we have.
The
Is,
impact.
is it clear? The
Yes.
impact, yeah, the impression, yes, we have in our minds when we read about this particular place. In other words, when we read about people here, celebrating and feeling happy, we feel joy at the same time. Those details make us, the impression we have is that of happiness. We're not really sad. You see? So the dominant atmosphere
Yes.
is that of joy, happiness, an atmosphere of celebration. So be careful here to the words setting, atmosphere. They're not exactly the same. Setting is time and place, and you already gave me details about that. Atmosphere is the general ambience or impression or feelings we have when we read about this particular time and place. Okay?
Okay.
Is that
Okay.
clear?
Yes.
We will focus on that more next session. One last thing here that I want to draw your attention to. Now, why does the writer need to compare those two babies, baby number one and baby number two? Why does he need to compare them? What's the message? Because this is the plot. Mu'taz, good, because this is in the plot. But what's his final message? What does he want to convey as a message?
He's
The
presenting
different,
lessons of life.
Meshket, repeat.
He's presenting an image from life, like for example, in real life we have poor and rich people, and how fortune and the chances are different between them both.
Excellent. But let's be more, precise. اللي هي at the
Miss,
time in England in the 16th
Miss,
century. Yeah? Nasruddin.
can I speak?
Nasruddin, go ahead.
Every boy, the two boys, every one of them is wishing something. For example, the poor boy is wishes to be in a high spot, in a high wants to be rich and have money, but his happiness depends on that goal. But and the rich boy is not happy with his maybe he's rich and he has a lot of money and he's uh, in a high table,
So the
in a high
message,
table,
the
but
message
he is
is
not
that
happy.
happiness does not depend on
Material side.
material things or on status or on belonging to a royal family. Can be, Nasruddin,
Yes.
I got your point. Can be that message. Nisreen, you're gonna say something?
No,
Okay.
not for now.
Now, Mishket a moment ago said the gap between the rich and the poor. We can say that the final message conveyed is that there was a huge gap in England at the time between the poor and the rich, the wealthy. Now,
Royalty.
the royalty and lords and ladies, etc. Now, هنا, just a concept, a word which is theme. Be careful to it. We will see it. Themes, these are central ideas or main ideas evoked in a work, stressed by the writer. So here, from the very beginning, Mark Twain wants to stress that idea, the gap the huge gap between the poor and the rich, and the suffering of the pauper or the poor, etc. Okay, theme, that's the central idea, one important idea in the work. You got it?
Yes.
Okay. Now, time is over, I guess. So the
Yeah, we
session is
have
over. You do
Thank
have
you.
another class, I guess, now.
Yes.
Okay, so this is it. I tried simply to introduce some of the concepts, setting, theme, plot, characters, which we are going to see in the first semester. And next week, hopefully, if we meet, hopefully we will meet, we will see another text with, and we will study setting an atmosphere in details, hopefully next week. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, thanks for
Thanks,
joining
Matt.
this online class.
Have a nice day.
Thank